and we're going to bring on our first guest. Her name is AC Author, but as is the case with many people who write books, she writes under more than one name. So her latest book is under her pen name, Lacey Baker, if I'm correct in what the information that I got. So I have been connected with AC Author for several years on Facebook. I don't know if we've ever met. I don't remember, but we welcome her to the show at AKA Lacey Baker.
Well, after all that, hi. Thank you for having me.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Yeah, so Lacey Baker, the new book is called No Place Like Home. And when is today the release date? Or I know
today is the release.
Today is the release day. That's what I thought. So happy release day to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Is this the first book under the Lacey Baker pseudonym, or do you have a series or a whole body of work?
This is actually the 8th book from Lacey Baker.
Oh, okay. Wow. See, I didn't even know Lacey.
Yeah.
I knew AC, but I didn't know Lacey. So
yeah, Lacey's trying to catch up with AC.
Oh, okay. All right. Now you write romance primarily?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so you have 8 books under Lacey Baker, and then how many books do you have under your AC Author imprint?
Somewhere over 100.
Really?
Wow.
You know,
I didn't realize it had been that many. Wow, you've been busy.
Me either. I know I had seen the name a whole bunch of times, but romance authors have to write a lot of books. I mean, you all are, I mean, sometimes 3 and 4 a year from what I see. They might have 3 or 4 books coming out in a year. That's a lot of writing. That's a lot of stories.
It's a lot of stories. It's a lot of writing. It's a lot of time.
Yeah, a lot of settings.
Mm-hmm. A lot of characters to remember.
Yes. Yes. And now I have a question. I don't know if I ever asked this question of any of the authors who are prolific as you are, but how do you keep from duplicating the same people, like same characters? How do you make new stories? And I know there's nothing new under the sun, and I know romance has like a formula,
right?
But how are you able to keep creating characters, and how do you keep from duplicating?
I read a lot. And I read outside of the genre that I normally write. And I watch a lot of TV. So I'm constantly getting all of this different inspiration, all of this different material. So when I sit down, but at this stage, especially when I'm writing something as AC, I have to always make a conscious effort to try and remember what I've already done, so that these people are going to be different and this story is going to be different. And a lot of times, you know, as you know, in romance, there are a lot of different tropes, and we use those tropes over and over and over again. But the story can still be different. The delivery can still be different. Just like everybody who's falling in love, their path to love is different. And so I have to think of it that way. Like how is their path to love going to be different from somebody else's? Especially when I do like a long running series like the Donovans. Like every time I start a new story for them, I'm always thinking, okay, well, what happened with the last people? And what happened with the people before that? So that I'm not doing the same thing that I did before. It's a very conscious effort. Otherwise, you can get, I do repeat names. And I have people on my team who go back and read the book. And they're like, you know, you had somebody with this name 3-4 books ago. And then I have to go back and change the names. And I try to keep a chart. And I try to outline, I use this baby name book with the thousands of baby names in it. So I try to highlight the one that I use so I won't go back and use it again, but I still do it, so.
Well, that's a good idea.
I like the using the baby names and crossing them out as you use them. So
because it's easy to duplicate names.
Right.
Mhm.
It is. I also get a lot of names from at the end of movies or TV shows when the credits roll.
Good
Mhm.
And then
idea too.
sometimes I'll see a name and then I'll just like write it down for whenever I'm going to use it again.
Okay, now that's for first names
First or last names, because I
or
always have a
last.
problem with
Okay.
last names because I really want to give people all the same last names. Like
Oh.
it just I never have like a variety of last names, so I'm always looking. Sometimes I'll look around in my office and I'll look on another book, or I'll look on the case of a DVD, something, because I'm always at a loss for last names.
So
Okay.
is it fair to say then that you don't name your character or use your character names as a symbol of some sort? Because sometimes people like to name their character something that kind of symbolizes what they're going through in the story.
Not me. not all the time. Sometimes I'll do things like I'll do posts in my group to have like readers help me with names.
Mhm.
I do that a lot with baby names because again, it's a whole name. And so I'll ask the readers to kind of help me with baby names. I did something last year where I did a post and I said, we have this new villain, and I gave, all the characteristics of the villain, and I gave like an inspiration picture. And then the readers kind of just all chimed in with all these different names. And I did end up picking one of the names. I think I did that twice last year. Once for the main male character in a book and once for a villain. So that's another way to get names. They don't necessarily have to have a meaning that relates to their character. The villain one actually does have a meaning because they told me to name her Sincere. And so we're going to call her Sin. So that kind of does have a correlation to who she turns out to be. But that just was by chance. When I saw the name Sincere, I was like, oh yeah, this works. So
So do you have the book with you?
Snow?
Yes.
No place like home, the new book.
No.
Oh,
And I thought about it before I sat down. I was like, well, I should probably get the book.
I'm about to say people want to see the book.
See the cover. Well, Rhonda, can you pull it up and then?
Yeah, let me see if I
Because
can
have
pull
it
it
on
up.
screen share since you know how to do it.
Well, I can have somebody bring me the book.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
You
Then
know,
we can
wait a
see
minute.
it.
We're dealing with big time authors. She has a whole team.
Yes.
No,
And
I'm actually sitting here texting my husband to tell him to get the book off the table.
he's part of the team too.
That's the extent of the team tonight.
Yeah. Well, the thing about names is something funny. I have a new book it's done and it comes out in a week. And I always order a proof at the end and read it from cover to cover because there's always something that could be missed. I don't care how many people have looked at it. So I realized when I read the proof that I had given this one of the characters grandparents on both sides, the grandfather, the same first name. So I had to change. I had to change it. Yeah, I had to change it. So I'm glad I caught it because and I only mentioned one of them 2 times. So that was the easier one to change because it was only mentioned twice. The other one was mentioned several times. So, but names are, especially period names, sometimes like this was from like the 40s, this person, these 2 people. So I had to give them first names of Black men that were in the 40s. So, I couldn't give them Shaquan or anything like that. DeAndre.
One time, years ago, when I wrote a continuity for Harlequin, and when you write a continuity for them, they give you like this series Bible, and it has all the names and the storylines, and you just go in and write it. And so the story that they gave me, the lady was a singer, and they said her name was Jennifer. And at the time, like American Idol was on and Jennifer Hudson was on. And so I wrote to him and I was like, yeah, I don't think her name should be Jennifer because this is way too similar to Jennifer Hudson. And they were like, yeah, but it's Jennifer and it was like her character was in all 4 books of the continuity. So then we had to change the name through all 4 books of the continuity, just because I felt some kind of way about it being Jennifer.
Yeah,
I
well,
felt like it was too close. I felt like it
yeah,
was too similar.
Right.
a
That
person
makes
might
sense.
think it's about,
That's why you
know,
can't
the
name a
person.
character Beyonce.
Right,
Oh my.
ever.
Well, in this day and age, people copyright their names, so you definitely can't
Well,
name
yeah,
a name a
when
This
character
is true.
Beyonce.
This is
that's
true.
true, because I'm
Well,
sure
can you tell
Beyonce
us,
trademark.
can you tell us a bit about your book that has
Mhm.
been released today?
I have it now. See,
Okay,
isn't she pretty? Isn't it
woo,
pretty?
beautiful. It's no place like home.
No
So
place
this
like
is
home.
like a winter book.
It's a Christmas book, but we were trying not to name it something Christmassy, but I mean, it's no place like home still sounds Christmassy.
It sounds like it sounds like the name of a Christmas movie, actually.
It does.
I mean, every time
Not one that's already out there. It's one that
every
you should
time
create.
somebody tries to speak that into existence, I'm all for it. I am all for it. Let's just keep on claiming it right here, right now. So
Yeah,
as
well,
Lacey,
yeah,
I've
tell
written,
us about the book, the plot for this book. What is it about?
right. So as Lacey, I've written, I've written 2 novelizations for Hallmark movies. And so, and the other Lacey books I've written have also been, I don't necessarily like the term sweet romance, because I just don't like it. But the difference between Lacey Baker books and AC Arthur books is that Lacey doesn't have the high heat that AC has. And so because I love Christmas, Christmas 365 days out of the year. And so I've written Christmas stories where we're always talking about it's happy, it's the most wonderful time of year, and everybody's excited that it's Christmas and they're decorating. And so when I was getting ready to write this story, going back to what we were saying earlier about how do you not repeat the same storylines, I wanted to kind of explore a story where it was Christmas and everybody else is happy because it's Christmas. But these 2 people, because of the grief that they suffered in their past, are not able to feel that joy of Christmas. So a big part of their journey is navigating through their grief, as well as falling in love. They were former high school, they weren't sweethearts, so it's hard to say they weren't sweethearts. They had crushes on each other. Obviously, they never told each other about the crush. She's an art curator and she loses her job. So she has to go back. She doesn't have to go back home, but she goes back home to visit with her aunt. And she doesn't like Christmas because her mother passed away, and her mother always used to tell her to, wish on a Christmas star and your wish will come true. Well, her wishes didn't always come true. So she started to not believe, and then she lost her mother. And she goes home and she doesn't want to deal with Christmas. She's trying to deal with, now I'm unemployed. And her aunt sends her right to church and says, here, get on this committee to help plan this Christmas tree auction. And her crush, her high school crush, is also on that committee. So now she has to work with her high school crush. She has to do all of this Christmas stuff. And she just hates it. And he's there and he's trying to get over the loss of his wife. His wife started the Christmas tree auction. So he's kind of wants to uphold his wife's memory. And now here he goes falling for his high school crush. So it really does, it's just a story that's just going to explore their grief and, have them both really relying on their faith. And
it really sounds like a sweet story. I know you said you don't like sweet romance, but this sounds like a really sweet story.
I just don't like the word sweet. So I always say it's heartwarming because I don't like.
Okay, sweet means no sex.
Yeah, but then
I mean,
no
real sexual, like real language that's heavy on.
Right, but I feel like if I say Lacey is sweet, then what am I saying AC is?
Oh.
Fiery. Fiery.
I'll take fiery. I'll take fiery. I'll take that. But yeah, so I wanted the joy of Christmas, but I also wanted the reality that it's not always a joyous season for everyone.
Mm-hmm. And that is true. I love Christmas. And a lot of what people see in Christmas is based on their childhood. too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
very much tied to that. And I know my mother, well, we had a great Christmas. I mean, everything was, it's happy. There's decorations, there's food, all, baking during the season. And we always got what we wanted. It was a big holiday for that. We didn't get much throughout the year, but for Christmas, we got what we
Mhm.
wanted. So to me, it's just, I love Christmas time. And people tend to be more generally in a better mood.
I
Yeah,
think so. I
that's
think
true.
so.
I think
So,
that's what I like most about Christmas. People are
yeah,
in a better mood. Everything is real glitzy and
Mhm.
bright.
Mhm.
But we do have to remember that there are some people who are going through a hard time while we're
Right.
loving all of the lights and everything. So I like the fact that your story kind of touches on both of those worlds. It touches
Right.
on the fun of Christmas, at the same time it acknowledges that there are people going through some things at that time as well.
Right.
right. I do want to address a question someone had. I don't know if it's already been answered to their satisfaction in terms of information, but we're speaking with the author's name is AC Author, but she also writes under the name Lacey Baker. And her new release, which just came out today, is under the name Lacey Baker, and it's called Snow Place Like Home.
Yeah.
So, Dara Jones Williams, that was the answer to your question. So I have another question for you. When did your first book come out? Because 100 books, that takes a long time.
Mhm.
When did your first book come out? Do
I
you
think it
remember?
was 2003.
So that's a lot
I
of
think it was,
writing in
yeah,
20.
it was Object of His Desire, and that came out through Genesis Press in
Yeah, I
I
remember
2000.
that
remember
book.
that book.
I was going to say that I remembered us coming out around the same time. I think your first book
Mhm.
was 2003, mine was 2004.
Yep.
And we used to run past each other in circles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I remember, and every time I see your name, I'm like, I know her. It's like I know her, but I don't know her, but I know her.
That's what I'm saying. We ran past each other. I used to see your name pop up in the book world. You probably saw my name pop
Uh-huh.
up a few times, but
Yep.
I don't know if we ever really had the chance to have our paths cross.
No, I don't think so. And we've never been like in the same place at the same time.
Right,
In
right.
physical
Which is
space.
funny because that's been a really long time, and we've both been, in the industry and moving around. So
Mhm.
Yeah. But we finally get you in the virtual space. So now we've met face to face virtually, which
we
is
have,
great.
we
So,
have.
and that's a lot of writing, even for 20 years. That's a
Mhm.
lot of books and stories. And now, did you have some before your first book came out? How many books did you have in the can? Like most people, their first book that gets released isn't the first book they've written. It might be the first book they submitted to
Right.
somebody, or so was that your first book that you wrote?
Uh, it was the first full book that I had written that I actually planned to be a book. Everything that I had written before then had been kind of like just something to pass the time, and like it wasn't necessarily formatted in a book because it was never my goal to become a writer. My mother said, go to this trade school and learn how to type, and you can be a secretary and you can get married and have kids, and that's what your life is. So that's what I thought my life was going to be. That's what I was doing. And so I'm working as a legal secretary then, and I'm at this office and it's so boring in there. And then I'm just writing, I'm just typing because I need to look like I'm doing something. And I'm just making up these stories because I read a lot of books. But when I finish the books, I'm always like, well, I could have did this better. Like I would have done this differently. So I'm just sitting there just typing. So I had a lot of things like that I just kind of typed up on a whim, and the receptionist at the office would read and said it was really good, and just stuff that was kind of like keeping us busy, but not like a whole full book.
Right,
Um,
right.
but then my oldest daughter was sick and she had to be home from school, and so they had to send a tutor to the house for like 2 hours out of the day. And for those 2 hours that the tutor was there, I needed something to do. So now I'm back at the computer and I'm typing up something else. But then in my mind, it was like, oh, this is going to be a book. I forgot what I had just read. And I was like, yeah, I can definitely do that better. And so at that point, I was writing a book. I didn't know where that book was going to go. But I was just like, let's write this book. And then I happened to be searching online and I saw Genesis Press. And I was like, oh, they have Black people in their books. So I sent it to them. And it was a hot mess, but I sent it because I was like, well, if it's Black people in this book, it's Black people in my book. And I sent it. And one night about 10 o'clock at night, I had just come from church, some event we had at church, and it was like 10 o'clock at night. And I got a call and they were like, oh yeah, we want to buy your book. And I was like, you buying whose book? And they were like, your book. I was like, really? And that's how it started. It was never a plan. I didn't write 80 million books and just get it right with this one. And when I tell you it was a mess, it was a terrible mess. It was just a mess. But it worked out. I learned.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's what it is. Learn by doing.
Yeah, I learned with each one. I learned, with every book I learned more. So it, even though I'm 100 plus in, I'm still learning, and I feel like I'm still growing as a writer. And so hopefully every book gets better. Hopefully.
Well, that's good advice for people who are aspiring writers, and also a good place for us to close because we're at the end of our interview. And so we want to make sure people can see the cover again of your new book that just got released today. It's No Place Like Home.
Congratulations. And we also put the link. We also put your link to your website in the chat. So people will be able to click on it and find the book if they want to support. And we ask you to please support. This is the holidays.
Thank you so much. Yes, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. This is gonna be your first Christmas purchase.
Okay. No Place Like Home. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV. And we hope to have you back in the future.
Thank you for having me. I will gladly come back. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You have a great night.
You too.